Today, I want to discuss a very important topic. And as a life coach and as a woman who has progressed through many dysfunctional relationships and who is now finally in a healthy relationship with myself and who works every day at having a better relationship with my body, for instance, having a better relationship with food, having a healthy relationship with finances, just really taking responsibility for my life in every area. I can tell you that I have learned to understand the power of recognizing how often we give our internal power over to other people. When we come from homes that are neglectful, ultimately, abandonment and rejection are the ultimate form of abuse. And we are a society of people who have grown up feeling forgotten as children. And that's not to say we're whining. That's not to say that we're ungrateful. It's to say that we are becoming a community of people who are awakening to the needs, the true needs of children, and to the consequences of growing up feeling invisible. While there may be some of us who get stuck in the trap of, for me, why did this happen to me, and never get out. Although feeling sorry for yourself and why me, I believe, are part of the journey of self-discovery and personal development. There is a time where we have to ask, how could you have done this to me? That is us renegotiating our ego boundaries. That is us saying, hey, here I am and I matter. The danger is that there are some of us who will get stuck in that, die in that, and never recover from that. And that's really sad because it's a missed opportunity to have a spiritual and emotional and cognitive neurological awakening where we can experience a true transformation. And so I hope that if you are someone who's experienced early childhood trauma, that you are becoming very aware of where you stand on that spectrum of healing. While it makes sense that we hold other people accountable, at least in our minds, it doesn't mean that we go embarrass our parents on Facebook. It doesn't mean that we take out a billboard and say, look what my mother did. That's not what this is about. This is about recognizing what happened to us. It's about recognizing how we got here. And I'm someone that believes that as you come from micro to macro, which means that you're on the healing path for life, because healing is an expansive journey. And it is so profound when you decide that your evolution is forever, because you just get better and better. You just get more peaceful and more peaceful. There is no downside to committing to the soul growth journey or the personal development journey, the healing journey. There is no downside, except that you are not someone who has their eye on their goal, and the goal is to heal. And part of the healing is to let go and to live in such a high state of consciousness that you understand that what happened to you is not your fault. And you can even see the paradigms and the patterns and the programs that those who hurt you, they lived in as child. So you start to understand that it could be no other way. Not your fault, but there is, if you are someone who's like, I want to move beyond this, then while you're healing, you have your eye on the goal. I wanted to address this idea of how narcissists can control your state of consciousness. And if you can grasp this, then you're someone who is going to accelerate on the healing path. So the mind is very simple and complex at the same time. What we experience as children is perceived through basically sensory faculties, perceptual faculties. We are inundated with data and stimuli through our five senses from the moment we're born. And there is a processor within our brain and within our mind. It's absolutely a default processor that Creator has endowed within us so that we, as this being, this consciousness being, infants have, or newborns have, a consciousness of I am here. Everything that happens to a newborn, they believe, is self-directed. They can't separate themselves from their mother, their father, from the room. So if they feel pain, they believe it's self-generated. Imagine how confusing that is for a newborn. Now, as a child ages, by the time that they're 2 and 3 years old, they develop an ego. Ego is that part of our personality that understands we are separate from our parents and the world around us, and we need them. And ego is that part of us that understands that there are rules and norms that we have to pay attention to in order to A, avoid pain, and B, to survive. Very simple, but yet complex process that a little child has to understand or adhere to by the time that they're 3. By the time a child is 5, they have an inner narrative. They have patterns and programs that have been downloaded into the subconscious mind as language patterns. This becomes our inner voice. This is a voice that tells us that we're doing something wrong, that we're so dumb, why didn't we know that was going to happen, or we should have known that was going to happen. That critical inner voice develops by the time that we're 5. And the narrative comes from the family norms, what has been downloaded into this child's experience through repetition, observation, and consistency. By the time that we're 7 and we go off into first grade, kindergarten, second grade, we are taking this inner narrative with us. If we do not, by the time that we are 12 years old, have a turnaround, then by the time that we're 12, this narrative becomes a foundation for our subconscious belief systems. Now, beliefs are really incredible. It's even biblical. This idea that, and it's even quantum, as a matter of fact. So whether you're looking into quantum mechanics or you're looking for answers in the biblical arena, the spiritual arena, even if you're looking in the philosophical arena, you will eventually come to a place where you recognize that beliefs are where it's at, that the perceiver of the belief system, so you have to understand that within you are the beliefs, and then there is this ego perceiver of these beliefs. And then there is a silent observer that I try to milk within my state of consciousness each and every day. And I hope that if you've been listening to me for a long time, you get that. There are the beliefs of the inner child. Then there is the perceiver of this narrative, thus the ego. And then you actually have the ability to, through metacognition, to milk the observer or the silent witness, who can then, from outside of the mind, through a higher state of consciousness, observe the workings of the ego story. We can even observe our emotions all without reacting to them. Super, super powerful. It's what all my work is about. It's what I teach in all of my courses. And we are now running courses at level 1, level 2, and level 3 so that people can ascend through these concepts and fully grasp them from a logical, irrational level so that their minds can understand why they have been stuck, why they have been ruminating, why they haven't been able to get unstuck. It's really fabulous if you can really get what is being offered here right now. And so what we believe through the eyes of the perceiver, who is generally unconscious, I would say 95%, even maybe even higher, most people are unconscious. Their ego has a story. The story runs in their mind. They don't realize that the mind is like a ticker tape. It's like watching Bravo television. It's just on. And without a consciousness flipping that switch, then the old story is going to play out. That's the power of healing at the neurological and at the subconscious level. That's the power of consciously healing, understanding consciousness as part of the healing journey. And so now most people don't understand that their ego is telling a story, that the perceiver within them is believing this story and acting out that story in the 3D world. The issue that we have that we don't even know that we have is that what I believe, I tend to see through the observer effect in the quantum field. Now, people can say, oh, I don't believe in the quantum field. Well, that's kind of silly, and say that after you've researched the quantum field, because everything in this world vibrates. The planet that we're on is vibrating. If you look up into the sky, you see other planets. There's no foundation. In other words, our planet is hanging out in space just like the rest of the planets. So everything is subatomic. Everything has a charge and everything vibrates. So to say that I don't believe in the observer effect, or I don't think that quantum mechanics affects me, is very short-sighted. This is someone who has not studied quantum mechanics. This is someone who does not understand the concept of energy. And so, dear one, your emotions are energy emotions, and they have an effect on the quantum field, just like any other form of energy. And science is finally coming to realize that. There's this big talk in the psychological community and those who are interested in consciousness as it relates to reality. So why is this important to you if you follow my work? Well, if you've been abused by a narcissist, then what I want you to understand is that you are running on fear. They have controlled your level or your state of awareness. And so when you have codependency, for instance, and you have a preoccupation with what other people think about you, then you were arrested at that level of consciousness. So at that level of consciousness, you are not highly conscious of how your mind is working. In essence, your ego is simply reacting to that level of awareness. So for instance, if I live with someone who gaslights me, and I did, and if I live with someone who stonewalls me, and I did, if I live with someone who's passive aggressive, and I did, I am full of frustration. As a codependent, as a emotional abuse survivor, psychological abuse survivor, as someone who grew up severely starved for nurturing, I, as an adult woman, am absolutely obsessed with the emotions of others because I fear abandonment and I'm seeking some sense of attachment. I'm not wrong because I'm seeking a sense of attachment. I have been psychologically built to seek attachment. However, this is an unconscious psychological process. It is also neurological, and it is also based on beliefs. So when you study quantum mechanics, you begin to understand that what people believe is all that they can see in the quantum field. Ever have an experience where you read a text message and you believed it said something, only to reread it later and it actually said something else? In those moments, those early moments when you read that text message, whether you realized it or not, you were in a certain state of consciousness and in a certain reality. And had you not reread that text, you may have spoken to the person who wrote you that text in a negative way. You may have set off a chain of events that mirrored the perception of reality in your head that was not true. And unless you had that moment of clarity where you stopped and you paused and you reread the text, you would have, by default, actually stepped into the creation process of creating what you believed. You believed this person disliked you. That you believed this person had a vendetta against you. You would have went out into the world with those feelings and treated that person as if that was true. You may have called your best friend and had that conversation. All outside of consciousness, you were actually creating that reality that you believed, even though it may not have ever been true. When you are dealing with people who are highly toxic, highly narcissistic, you must understand that when your emotions become involved, you are operating dynamic, natural laws that govern time and space. So for someone like me who was dealing with someone who was highly, I believe, maybe he was just frustrated by me, or maybe he was a vulnerable narcissist or had high vulnerable narcissistic traits. And on top of my people pleasing, my thinking that I'm right, my thinking that if I do this for you, you should naturally want to do this for me, not seeing things clearly, not being very mature in my relationship, it was a very bad combination. But I can tell you that my fear of his disapproval arrested me. And that's all I could fear. That's all I could think. So I was stuck in a loop. So in essence, I was living a subconscious autopilot life. That is the danger of being in a toxic relationship because it arrests you at a state of consciousness that can only deliver you what you have experienced in the past. Until you understand that concept, you cannot break through. You cannot break free. So if you live with someone who's highly toxic, dear one, I ask you to step out of the reactionary thoughts that you have. I ask you to begin considering the thoughts that you have. I ask you to start observing the thoughts that you're having from a detached observer. Develop the ability to witness what you witness. Find the space between your thoughts. Learn to slow everything down because your thoughts are like bullets out of a gun. They are like trains that are traveling at 10,000 miles an hour. Now, when you think about thoughts, I want you to think about the neurological pathways in your brain are loop-like. What you think, you feel, you believe, and right back to what you think, you believe, and what you feel and what you see. It's a feedback system. And only a controlled mind can interrupt that feedback system. And if you're interested in learning more about how you can interrupt that feedback system, please visit my website at www.lisaaromano.com. My team and I are happy to serve you. If you are interested in learning more about how to gain control over your emotions, your beliefs, please email me and my team at coach@lisaaromano.com, and we will do our best to serve you. Dear one, the power to heal your life, the power to heal your mind is within you. You just need knowledge, wisdom, support, and training. We got this. Namaste. Until next time.